Thunder Grunt.
Hey, welcome to Writers Blockbusters. We're the show that treats a movie like it's a script. The final edit, it's the script. I said it a million times and I'm saying it wrong for the first time. Anyway, how you doing, guys?
Good, man.
Very good.
You gotta introduce yourselves.
I am Jimmy George. I am a screenwriter and full-time script consultant. My Twitter handle is @JimmyRGeorge.
I am losing my voice. Right?
We all
Perfect
are.
timing.
We all are.
Exactly. I am Jamie Nash. I am a screenwriter and author of Save the Cat, Writes for TV.
On sale.
On sale now at Amazon. Or get the audiobook where I don't lose my voice. You'll hear more about this book later. Keep listening.
I wonder how long till they all get mad about this joke. I'm Bob Rose. I'm at ThunderGutBob on Twitter, and I'm a guy who stayed up late watching Conjuring 3.
Yes.
That's right, I said 3, not The Devil Made Me Do It. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. The Conjuring 3 available on HBO Max and in theaters, right? Jamie.
That is correct.
Who wrote this shit?
This script had a bunch of writers. Well, I guess it didn't. It didn't. There's some characters based.
Yeah, I was going to say
this.
It's a huge franchise at this point.
So here's what we got. I have to look this guy up because I don't really know his work. David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. That's one person. 4 names. He got a screenplay by, a story by. James Wan got a story by. Chad Hayes gets the based on characters created by. He worked on the first movie, the first Conjuring. I think it was his script. And then Carrie W. Hayes also worked on that first Conjuring based on characters by. It's kind of weird when you have based on characters by, but it's a true story. You know.
Well, they're true stories. They're not. I mean. Anyway, go ahead.
What are you saying, Bob?
I'm saying that the Warrens were proven false long time ago, and yet it's hilarious that we have all this now, you know?
No.
Yeah.
That's a whole other
podcast about the Warrens. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're great characters, though, and even in real life
Absolutely.
they totally were.
I was a big fan of the Warrens growing up. Like the idea.
The idea of it is so cool. It's so cool.
Really, when I saw them, they weren't super charismatic or anything.
Do you remember, you guys probably don't remember this, but like in the aughts, there was a reality show called like Paranormal State. Terrible show. But Elizabeth Warren, she would always be on the show. And they'd bring her on like she was like the king of what they're trying to do.
Right.
And they would always be like, you know, at a trailer park trying to exercise some kid.
Yeah, as a person that watched that show all the time, she would show up because it was very Catholic based. That
show was very Catholic based.
It was at Penn State, I remember. But the lead of that fell on some hard times. Give him a Google. Throw him in.
No, he got like pancreatic cancer, but he survived.
He scammed a bunch of people at one point.
And they got killed.
You had to apologize.
Dude, Jamie, he scammed him on the show. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like he was doing. Anyway, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Lots of screenwriting tips here.
I think
that's our reality show episode when we talk about writing reality shows.
And then there was that guy who was a charismatic character, Chip Kofi. Remember that guy?
Yes, I loved when he came on. Yeah, he was great.
He was awesome.
I always got excited when they called it. We got to call Coffee. You know?
I'm hoping 20 years from now, instead of the Conjuring, it's the Kofi files, or Coffee files. The coffee grinder, or whatever it's called. And there's a whole series of movies about. Actually, the priest in this movie was no, he wasn't.
He was. I was going to say no, he wasn't. Totally different guy.
I think let's start spreading that rumor.
Yeah. Anyway, to get back on track,
who wrote it?
We got. Yeah. So
I think I went through who wrote it.
You went who wrote it. I was going to say, do we have any numbers on box office here?
We do.
We're recording this on 6/18/2021, so this is not the full run because it just came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind it's an HBO Max release, so it's got some caveats to it.
Pandemic is still here.
It didn't do Quiet Place 2 numbers. Quiet Place 2 was the first movie to break 100 million at the domestic box office, I believe.
Wow.
Okay.
And this movie is more in Cruella territory because Cruella also had an interesting release. It has been the number one movie for the last 2 weeks in a row, though.
The Conjuring?
The Conjuring.
Conjuring 3? Okay.
So this says gross to confirm 23.3 million. I think that's this week. Hold on, let me dig. This is a weird article I'm reading.
It's also not normal. It's not normal times either.
Yeah.
You know, with
it's
box office.
33. So I think it's done 33.4. Am I reading that right? Let me see. I'll give you the big number. This is the easy way to do it. It's 112 million worldwide.
Okay.
I think it's 44 and 68 is the number. So 44 domestic, 68. So not huge numbers. I think both of the last Conjurings made in the $320 million worldwide. So it's going to fall short of that. It might scratch out 150, but with an HBO Max release, I think that's pretty impressive in a weird sort of way.
They'll greenlight a 4. There'll be a Conjuring 4.
When you consider like what Wonder Woman did using a similar release, this movie's going to come close to that, and it's made for like pennies compared to that. Yeah. This movie's about a $40 million budget, which is because most people get paid after they make 10 movies. You know, it's like when you're in the franchise. I think the first movie cost about 20, and then after that they got double the budgets for the last 2. And then I'm sure Annabelle and those get a lot less. I'm sure they're more like, I don't really know. I didn't look up the budget, but my gut says they're probably 10 million or 15 million.
Right, smaller. Yeah.
But they pull in the money.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say they can't. All right, so we're going to talk about goals and plans because we've already admitted, anyone listening, we've already admitted to Jimmy that me and Jamie kind of watched the movie. And that's where our thoughts, we're like, you're the backbone of this episode.
Do you kind of want to, do you want to do the thing where we do some episodes but where we just say what we thought about it? I was into diagnosing.
You're correct. Let's do that. Let's give our short review, our personal short review of it first before we talk about, because there's plenty of movies that are written badly that I love. So it's not the same thing. Right?
Go ahead, Bob. Just go ahead.
Oh, I'm first? Okay.
Yeah.
So after only one viewing, I really kind of had hope in the first half, to be honest with you. I thought the actual opening was kind of badass.
Mm-hmm.
But as the movie progresses, it got to the point where I was just like, oh man, it's just a witch. I know that sucked, but I was like, it's just a witch. I was like, I really enjoy the two of them as the Warrens. I really do. I could watch more movies with them. I said to Jamie earlier, this should be a TV show. It should not be a series of movies, but I understand that they want the box office. I could watch the two of them in a bad script and still be entertained to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
This thing, it does go off the rails, and it gets kind of like, it fails everyone in it. Like, everyone's giving such a good performance.
Yeah. They're acting the shit
out of it. Especially the dude from Return of the King, the priest. I was like,
Fringe. He's
the Fringe guy, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Totally amazing
John
performance.
Noble. Yeah.
Amazing performance, and it's just
so good.
I enjoyed parts of it, but I did not like the movie.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah, it's so. I'll go back even deeper. I'll go the Conjuring franchise in general.
Jamie, move your mic a little closer to you. Thank you.
So I'm going to go with the Conjuring franchise in general. It's a weird franchise for me because when I watch it, it's almost like a prestige version of like The Haunting or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's this prestige version where it's kind of the same old classic stories, but brought to such height craft-wise, especially with the James Wan tricks and stuff like that that come to play. So I really liked. I mean, I thought the first movie was like it blew my mind that they could just use the same old stories and classic stories, but kind of get to us that way. Second movie, I thought maybe with the Crooked Man and stuff got a little bit off the rails, but I love the Europe the European setting, the UK setting. This one, honestly, I was having a hard time, locking into it. It just, and we'll get to why. So it wasn't that I thought it was awful. I get, much like you guys have said, I do love the two of them. I like the franchise in general. Like, I think it's kind of a fun way to go about, a horror franchise, which is kind of hard to pull off. But yeah, I think it comes down to me with some it's one of those things where I always say that all this screenwriting crap nonsense, like, it's another way of saying I got bored or something, or I lost it didn't hold my attention. So I'm hoping today we can dig in to why it didn't hold my attention, and maybe figure out how those things relate to this craft nonsense we talk about all the time. Because even it wasn't a horrible movie.
No,
it just, for whatever reason, it didn't grab me the way the other two did.
I was gonna
movies in the series did.
I was gonna say, for me, it even just came down to concept. Like, the fact that it was a witch on the third movie, I was like, man, she's like a first movie villain. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
honestly, that part didn't bother me.
That bothered me. I was just like, at one point, I'm just like, she's a person. A gun could fix this. What are you doing? Like, okay.
So for me, I kind of sit somewhere pretty close to what you guys feel. I am not a huge fan of the franchise, but I really love the first film, and I love what all the films are trying to do and playing, and I love that we get this universe, and I love that it exists, and that there's still a market for this, and that hopefully we'll get other franchises like this going forward, original, that have the flavor taking from old mythology and old, stories, like Jamie said, like the prestige version of The Haunting. I really love the first film, and the second film, there are moments that I love about it. And the Warrens in general, this version of the Warrens, not the real Warrens. I
Warrens
love them.
Extreme.
Yeah, I love them, their characters, and the story that it's told over the course of the movies. But like, it's a mess, and we'll get into why it's a mess. I think from a storytelling standpoint, it's a mess. But I can see why a lot of people like this movie, and that's something I want to get into at the end after we talk about what's not working. I can see why people like it, especially people who are fans of this like it.
Absolutely, man.
So for me, like, I want to talk about the positives at the end, hearing all these things that don't work, and try to get to the bottom of how it's instructive, what's good about it, and instructive about that. So
I was gonna say, like, if you're a huge fan of these, you see what a movie's in, like, if you're a huge fan of a franchise and you see what the franchise is intending to do, sometimes your fandom will kind of smooth over the fact that it didn't reach it. And
on paper,
like, I can see by the end of this movie, I was like, I see what they wanted to do. And if I was a huge fan, I'd be like, hell yes, I'm on board. Because in my mind, I can fill in all the holes. But
right,
I don't know if the movie did.
All right, so Jamie, you want to talk about the lock-in, and we can bounce off of each other?
Yeah. So what's the lock-in? So today we're going to talk about some things. I think a lot of what we wanted to talk about at first came down to goals and plans. And in a screenwriting log line, the key things you want to hit are a hero, the heroes, in this case, it would be the two of them, the goals, the obstacles, and the stakes. So there's a hero. Indiana Jones is hunting for the Lost Ark. Nazis in the way. If he fails to get the Lost Ark, then the Nazis will take over the world. That's hero, goal, obstacle, stakes. That's, by the way, not the logline of this movie. So just to be clear. It'd be funny, like 20 years from now, that'll be me. I'll be like, I'll watch the wrong movie, and you'll humor me. You'll be like, I think that's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You kind of got me excited. Like, I'm kind of hoping this whole franchise takes like a Fast and Furious turn. You know, Conjuring 5 turns into the two of them with swords fighting like demons and shit. Like, you know what I mean? It just turns into an action franchise out of nowhere.
That'd be pretty cool. What was remember the movie about the magicians, Smoke and Mirrors, Michael Douglas or something like that?
Yeah.
The movie nobody saw, but it had a famous screenplay that went through many iterations years ago.
And turned into something different,
Yeah, turned two magicians sword fighting. That's what we need with The Conjuring. more swashbuckling, more romancing the stone meets poltergeist.
Right.
I don't know. So what's the lock-in moment? So the lock-in moment is when your hero locks into that goal I mentioned. So when Indiana Jones says, I'm hunting the Lost Ark, the obstacle's in the way, the stakes are there. When all of that comes together and the hero really doesn't have any choice to go back because of the stakes, that's the lock-in moment of the story. It usually happens at the end of Act 1. And so Act 2 is usually about your hero pursuing the goal with the obstacles in the way. That is me in a nutshell telling you what the lock-in moment is. So what's the lock-in moment of this movie? And these movies are very tricky because here's the thing with these, and just to dive back, like the first Conjuring did something different, I thought. The first Conjuring, and I didn't analyze the first Conjuring for this, so you can shout at me and say this is wrong. But I think what the first Conjuring did, it really made the heroes almost the family.
Yes.
And
they're the primary perspective.
Agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And these two were just the exorcists.
Yep.
You know, like would be in any exorcist.
They were the half man.
They were the
half man.
They were the father from the Exorcist, right? So, like they show up to help.
So they could come in late. And what the franchise did that was a little different is they give you a teaser, they give you the James Bond cold opening, with something, and then they drop in on the exorcists along the way. So they were kind of the stars. They were the poster, featured actors on the poster. But really, they were the half-man characters.
Exactly.
This movie, I don't think does that. I think this
movie is the Warren TV show.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the first one that tries to go it the other way. So, and what I wrote down was that it's really a procedural, right? It's sort of a detective story. It's like Law and Order in some ways.
Exactly.
It's like supernatural Law and Order.
Exactly.
And in fact, it's told in a very similar way.
Yes.
I should look up that screenwriter. He's probably written 100 Law and Orders.
It's an episode of the X-Files with the Warrens.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
Which honestly is not a bad pitch.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not a bad pitch.
So what is the lock-in moment of this movie? Well, let's define what's the hero, goal, obstacle, and stakes, and then maybe we can figure it out.
Well,
I have a guess on what the lock-in is, but yeah, go.
It's tricky.
It's tricky as hell, yeah.
One of the problems with the procedural, and I'm not sure that this mixes great with a horror movie.
It doesn't.
It works well with an X-Files. But,
yes.
The problem is, if they ever really wanted to quit, they probably could. They probably could just say, you know what? I don't know. Maybe the guy he's not possessed anymore. He's in prison. This one's tough. Let's just take a knee. They have personal stakes because they were involved in the first exorcism. They're kind of sworn protectors, which is why television shows work. I mean, they're cops. It's their job. They can't just quit and say, we'll let the killer get away on this one. There's a million other killers to investigate. But when you have a feature, when these features tend to be like the most important mission, they're elevated.
Right.
Critical missions. There is a problem with personal lock-in here And
It's also. Do you think it's also execution too? Like, I feel like the character, we're not told, the characters, the Warrens, don't just reiterate to us that how much they care about saving his life.
Right.
It doesn't ever happen.
There's a line, exactly, Bob. There's
Yeah.
a line I wanted to bring up and like discuss this as just like an instructive moment. Because like the first movie, Jamie, and the second movie, what they do a great job with from the Warren side of things, even though they're not the main perspective characters, is they make it personal. By the first movie, defeating the villain also means saving their daughter from the supernatural force. It's the same force. And in the second movie, Lorraine is having visions about Ed's death, specifically at this family's house. So there's this fate and personal stakes about that specific vision. So they're intertwined, right? Like both stories. Saving the family, defeating the evil in part 2 also means saving Ed from this fate that Lorraine has been envisioning. In the third one, there's like nothing. And he even asks, the priest says to her, there's this great moment where they had the opportunity to connect us with Ed and Lorraine's personal stakes. He says, this boy who's headed to the death chamber is saving him worth everything you have, because that's what it will cost. And then they never say anything.
No, it's even worse than that. He kind of looks at them and they kind of like look at each other like, well?
Shoulder shrug.
You know what? Hell, let's go do it. You know, it's like, gee golly.
Yeah,
let's
and so like since we never hear them vocalize like how they're feeling about the stakes, like we feel nothing about their investment in the journey. And like it's just sort of like a shoulder shrug. Like both movies, if you watch them, there's like constant every 5 minutes status updates where Ed and Lorraine are just together and they're discussing like, should we keep going? Like, this is too dangerous. We have to stop. They're discussing the stakes and the risks of continuing on with this mission. And so we are able to feel something about their continued efforts in the face of hearing them like voice their fears, right? But in this one, there's like no moments where the two of them are discussing their fears. So you can't really feel scared for it.
I'd even go as far to say, Jimmy, that you could actually repair this feeling just by having like Patrick Wilson go, I am not going to let some innocent child die.
It's a simple
like, you
fix.
just needed that one like sentence.
And I will, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say, like we've said, we should say this right now. It's very possible these moments were in the script.
And they edited it out.
It's very possible they filmed them and they just did, for whatever reason, it didn't come out right, or they cut it for studio notes, who knows. But the fact is, like, these things are missing, and that's why it's less engaging.
Patrick Wilson kept giggling when he said
it. Well, let me throw this out,
Who gives a fuck?
I know that we never want to rewrite, but I'm imagining now in the movie him saying that line so powerfully that he, like, holds his chest for a minute like he's winded from the heart attack. Like, come on, people. Come on. It's right there.
It's such a simple patch.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, so I see this all the time, right? Where I will read a script. Because for those of you who are listening for the first time, welcome to the shit show. But I read amateur scripts 5 days a week. That's my job. And I am constantly reading scripts where the characters are on a mission. They're trying to achieve a goal, but we never hear them express the stakes they fear or the rewards they seek. And so you can't feel, that's the motivation. That is the purpose of achieving the goal. And we never get that from Ed and Lorraine throughout this story. We never hear them express like what they're fearing they're going to lose if they continue.
It's kind of like they're just on another case and we're hoping that Ed doesn't have another heart attack.
Right.
That's kind of
pretty much.
That's kind of what it feels like.
And like you mentioned, the personal stakes were woven into the fabric of the concepts in the past two movies.
Right.
But because that's not here, this one needed that patch, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just expressing the personal drivers for why they get involved in these cases at all. Like what is their drivers? And quite honestly, they're making this a procedural. They're making them the leads. They're the ones with the goals, obstacles, stakes.
Right.
But I didn't really see much of an arc in this movie for them. Like, there's nothing that needed to be fixed. Like, the gazebo stuff, it's like if there was some
Is that from the other
storyline-
movies that I didn't get?
No. So
okay.
so they tried, Jamie. I think they tried, and my guess is there was. Often when we're diagnosing these things that don't work, you can kind of imagine the drafts where when something feels half done, you can imagine the drafts where it was a bigger thing, and somewhere along the line it got cut out through the various writers and opinions, and then you still have the lingering stuff that they didn't fully explore in the new draft. So in the end, like Lorraine says to Ed, to get him back from his hypnosis, like he's been hypnotized, the Temple of Doom Indiana Jones trick,
even the naked gun trick. It's like it's in so many movies.
Well, watching that, I was like, are we really allowed to still do that trick? Ed, you're in there. Look at me.
It's is there a name for it? Like a love. I'm
sure there's
a love pool or something. You always pull the love out.
TVtropes.com. I'm sure. Look, it's premise specific. That's why Arnie kills, because she does the same trick on him. Like that's what the person they're trying to help suffers that. So it's a good premise pretzel in them having the Warrens suffer the same thing that the person they're trying to help. So like I appreciated the effort there, but we have seen it so many times, and they didn't really make it original enough for us not to be like it's Temple of Doom.
Right.
But there's a moment, Jamie, where how she gets him back. This is sort of like, you can see where they're trying to work with theme, is she says, she thinks our love is a weakness, but it's our strength. And they flash back to the gazebo kiss and all this stuff. You can see that they're trying to play with that as like a lesson that needs to be learned. Like our love is our weakness. No, our love is our strength. But they didn't do anything to dramatize it for us to feel that moment they're trying.
Yeah, I don't even know how they would, though.
Also, did the witch even think that?
Right, we never heard her say that.
The witch just thinks somebody's trying to stop her spell. I don't think she cares about them personally whatsoever.
The movie is constantly sort of dropping in these clarifiers after the fact that, like, Lorraine learned from being psychic and connected to the villain, but we never actually heard her, like, absorb that information. So she's just like, oh, she's doing this, and you're like, what? But it's so crazy that we're still talking about the lock-in. So
it's a mess. So, yeah.
Well, we've kind of jumped back, further down. But,
so Jamie, like, do you think the lock-in is when? So at 30 minutes, the lawyer says to them, so Arnie's in jail for murdering, right? And the Warrens believe he was possessed, but then they do a test and he's not possessed. So they're like, you were possessed while you were killing, but you're no longer possessed. And so the defense is gonna seek the death penalty, and the prosecution's gonna seek the death penalty. And Arnie's lawyer says, I'll build the case, but that kid is gonna live or die depending on what you two find. So there's that.
That's the lock-in. That's the lock-in.
Well, there's another one that is I mean, and the problem is because there are no personal stakes and stuff. They're never really locked in. It's just. Then the other one is when they find that thing under the ground, and it's like, I think that is like, so this is more than, because if you look at it from a catalyst debate kind of way, it's like the debate is, was he possessed, or is there something more? Right. And then when they find that weird thing, it's like there's something more. Now that's like 50 minutes into the movie.
That's 41 minutes.
Yeah.
They discover that he's not cursed.
Right.
I mean, he's not possessed. He's cursed.
I would put that's almost like not to bring it back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, since that's where I started, but it's kind of like the medallion part is that, there's a catalyst there. He goes on the mission. He finds Marion. When he gets the medallion, he's really on the hunt, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this is. It's like once they get that, then they have a mystery to solve. Before that, they're just scrambling to see if their theory is even right. And then when they get that, it's like, we have to find out who put that there. And then that's kind of their mission.
Okay, so that's what you got. So you guys are so.
It could go either way. It's a coin toss.
Because I was gonna ask. Go ahead.
I agree with the first thing you said. To me, that's the lock-in. When they say when that guy says that line, when I was watching it, I was like, well, there it is. He literally says, no matter this kid live or dies depending on what you do. I was just like, there. It felt like a screenwriter moment.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we won't let him down. But
Yeah.
then, so I was gonna ask you guys. There's another moment, and for me, this moment feels like the end of Act 1 in Temple of Doom for me. This is and this is exactly what happens in Wonder Woman, by the way. We have this
1984.
1984. We have this big crucial scene. This is 71 minutes into the movie. Drew, their coworker, Ed and Lorraine's coworker, brings them this book that the church used to stop witches, and in the book, they discover that they can break the curse by destroying the altar. So that's the Death Star, right? The altar is the Death Star of the villain's plan, and we have to destroy it. So to me, like, that's where, so like she says, does it say how to stop the curse? And he says, you can break the curse by destroying the altar it was cast from. To me, that feels like a natural end of Act 1 lock-in. Like, okay, for the rest of the story, we got to find her so we can destroy her altar and break the curse. But it doesn't happen, and that's the moment. That's the moment where the villain's plan becomes clarified.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it doesn't go about them finding the altar as much as figuring out who she is. From
right.
Like we're still wondering who is this person?
Who is she?
Who is this woman?
Yes.
We don't know, and because there's no. I think I wrote it down, Jamie. I think I told you I did, but there's no even moment of praise the killer of her.
Well,
even her father, when he talks about her, doesn't say what she can even do. She just knows the occult, and so at no point does the movie have any interest in telling us who she is, more than just a daughter that likes the occult. Specifically
her. There is a great praise of the killer moment when they're first interviewing him, where he talks about the daughter, the descendants, disciples of the Ram. Impregnating. Taking that impregnated lawyer's wife and making the baby be born with the heart on the outside, there is a badass praise of the killer for the disciples of the Ram, but it's not for our villain. It's just about the cult that the villain is a part of.
There's another 40 minutes in the movie till I know that she's connected to that.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I know. I agree. I agree. It's like giving a praise of the killer speech for Michael Myers, but we don't meet Michael Myers or even know that that's his name for another 60 minutes.
Yeah. It's just very odd.
Yes.
It's so here's my summation of the lock-in, because we have three choices, right?
Yeah, three choices.
It really depends on how you want to angle your goal, what you think the goal is. I personally don't think the goal is to save RD from death row. I think that they never really do a great job with
that. And so
and they don't, right?
That's the stated lock-in at 30 minutes, right? But that's the end of Act 1.
Yeah. But if you go with the fact that we have to figure out what's going on or stop what's going on, that's kind of the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Then these other ones are evolutions of that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I lock on to the lock on. I don't know. It's
the discovery of the witch's totem, the curse totem.
Yeah.
That's 41 minutes.
It still could be the one before that when they say, when they make them read the Bible and they say something else is going on here. That could also be the lock-in, because they're trying to both, in order to stop it, they have to understand it.
Right.
And they go in an investigation. So all the other things are just focusing of the way to stop it in a larger sense.
Okay. I like that.
That makes sense. And we're kept at the same knowledge level as them the entire time too.
Yeah. Right. And I think that looking at it that way, while that might not be the right way to look at this movie, for people listening, that might be the right way to look at their movie, is come up with a clear goal. The goal can have sub-goals. It can have more focused
mini goals, yeah.
The goal can evolve. But, it could go from we have to capture this thing to we have to kill the bad guy to we have to blow up the Death Star or something. I don't know.
Right. They're all in service of the overall goal. But this one, the overall goal, they told us the overall goal was proving that he was possessed to get him off of the death penalty, and that's not really what this movie is.
It feels like they punt that away right away.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
Well,
no.
I remember when that felt like it was starting a courtroom drama. And
right, where's the courtroom promise? Yeah.
All we got...
I was kind of excited about.
Yeah, I was kind of into that.
I was like,
all we got was the judge giving a side eye. That was it. It was the judge just going, "Oh God." They watched the whole thing. But
everybody took that thing very seriously too. Like, oh, all we have to do is prove that he was possessed, and then we can get him off the. It's right. Really? Yeah. I mean, good luck with that.
And also the line that he says, like, the fact that they have to swear on a Bible means that they'll do this. I was like, it's just, I don't know. This is an oddly written line for him. These people that are engrossed in this, like, supernatural world actually believe they can make the legal system. I don't know. It's just, they just went with it so easy.
I think we've actually covered the first three things in our outline there. We're all the way down to confusing tactics.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one where this is going to become an episode of Bonus Disc, Bob. Bob's other podcast.
Oh, that hasn't been done for a year, but yeah, let's do it.
All right, this will be the. I don't know, guys. I thought the best way to go about this is kind of pull out the lessons from, like, the confusion of what's happening. Is that cool with you guys?
Yep.
I'll just say it, and then maybe you guys can, like, bounce off this. Like, just for context, what I mean for the listeners is, so they're constantly going from, they're creating new mini goals, right? Like Jamie just said, to achieve the overall goal. But the problem is they keep discovering things and coming to conclusions that lead them to the next step, but we're not told what those conclusions are. They're like, "Oh shit." And then you're like, "What's that oh shit about? Like, why did they say that?" And then they're on to the next step.
Next time on The Conjuring 3.
Right. Based on the oh shit, we go to the next scene, but, like, they didn't discuss what that oh shit was.
Yeah.
So like, I see this all the time. So I'm going to use different genre, but I use this example because I think it's a good one. When you have primary perspective characters, Ed and Lorraine in this movie, like in the other movies, they are not the main characters. So they can learn things and we can be withheld from what they learn for a while because they're not the main characters. So, but if you have a main character and that main character learns something on screen, we need to know what it is that they just learned. And so, like, I'll give you an example. In the Matrix, Trinity has this closed door meeting with the Oracle, and we don't hear what the Oracle said to Trinity. That works because Trinity is not our main perspective into the story. So it can be withheld. If Neo had that closed door conversation with the Oracle, and the storytellers didn't tell us what the Oracle told Neo, everybody would be fucking pissed, and it would be frustrated through the rest of the movie. Like, what did the Oracle tell Neo? Because, like, Neo is our perspective into the story. This movie, constantly, Ed and Lorraine are coming to conclusions, and then the story doesn't tell us what those conclusions are to kind of make us locked into their next mini goal, right? So I'll give you, we'll just go through it. So that's what I want to talk about here by confusing tactics.
Okay.
So we learn that the boys we see that waterbed scene that's badass. Where the little boy just moved in the house and there's an old waterbed there. Where this movie is constantly giving us people moving into places where furniture is left, and
this franchise is constantly giving us people moving into.
I don't understand that. I've never heard of people moving into a house where the furniture was just left. So, like, I always have a hard time. Like, who the fuck left the waterbed?
That does happen. That does happen.
Okay,
that's a thing that happens.
But,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that aside. So then we see that the waterbed exploded. Cut to present day. Ed and Lorraine are in that room, and Debbie, the woman who's the fiance of Arnie and the brother of this kid who experienced this, she said, "Yeah, it left a water stain on the floor, right?" And they pull the rug out and they look at the stain, and Lorraine gasps. there's like this major dramatic moment with a music sting and everything, and all we're looking at as an audience is like a rotten wooden floor, right? It looks like a water stain, and Ed goes, "That's no water stain." Cut to them under the house, like looking for what's under the water stain. Well, what do they think it is? Why are they going under the house to investigate? To us, it just looks like a fucking water stain, and we saw water on the floor.
For us, it could be termites. We don't know.
Right? Like what? Like what?
Yeah, what? Okay.
What is happening? Like why? Why are they afraid? Like why are Ed and Lorraine afraid? And like the job of the storyteller, of you as the writer, is to have Ed and Lorraine go like, "We think it's this, and this is why it's scary."
Can I add, just before you keep going? Can I add that is a problem in this movie, is communication between the characters.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I think I wrote it down below on our topics, but the fact that Ed and Lorraine don't, or even Lorraine doesn't follow up with Arnie after the prologue, after the exorcism, is insane to me. I could not believe it. I was like, did no one, like the fact that they just assumed that it went right and didn't just talk to him, didn't say, "Hey Arnie, what happened at the end of the exorcism?" Oh, well, I looked at my brother's eyes and I said, "Hey, demon, come into me." And that would have been a whole different lock-in, right? That was like, like they didn't even ask.
And you know what, Bob? It's a confusing that they wouldn't make that tactic, right? So for every confusing tactic, and we'll get into it, there's in this list, there's a tactic that's confusing why they didn't do it right away. Just like you said, just ask him.
Well, I know that he had a heart attack and stuff, but wouldn't Lorraine like call them on the phone? I don't understand, you know? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it.
No. That's a great point to what I just said. So like, okay, so now so now we'll go to the next thing. Okay, they're going to interview a priest. So they find this thing, and like you said, I don't know if it was Jamie or Bob, but coincidentally, their good buddy priest. Say what you were gonna say.
The fact that the way that they find the fringe dude is a coincidence of someone just suggesting, "Hey, there's a guy that kind of knows about that stuff."
He knows all that.
It's not because of the movie pushing them towards it. It's just some dude going, "Yeah, go talk to him."
My buddy Jimmy.
And it just so happened Jimmy's the father of the witch. Right.
That's something I don't want to go into, but I call that the phony family tree, where there's a very small group of characters that the writers needed to be like 5 characters total, and one of those characters just so happens to be like, out of all the people in humanity, the one connected to the thing. Anyway, I see it all the time. So they're okay, guys. They're going confusing tactics. They're going back to confusing tactics. They're going to interview a priest who studied the disciples of the Ram. Okay, but why? Why are they going to talk to him? Like, what do they seek by talking to him? They never discuss it. They're just like, let's talk to this guy. Like, about what? For what purpose? How does this help them get closer to achieving their goal of proving that Arnie wasn't possessed? It's never discussed. Once again, Bob, the lack of communication.
It's not even that. It's like they get to his house and he's like, "Hey, you know that basement you have with all your cool shit in it? I've got one too." And then no more information. They go down to the basement and then no more information is given. It's just odd. It's a very odd scene.
Right. And I think that is basically because all that we needed was to hear Ed and Lorraine say, like, "We're going to go here and we're trying to find this, and this guy's going to help us do this, because if we get this information out of him, we can help Arnie off." Just like, you know, connecting it to how this is going to help the overall goal, basically.
Right.
And this conversation, all it needs is 4 lines, right? And you got it. And then you can feel something about why they're there and like their efforts to get the information out of them. So, okay, the next one. They go to talk to this homicide detective, right, guys?
Yeah.
And first of all, they get the call from their assistant, and the guy says he's seen it. Well, it was like 40 minutes ago when he handed that guy their assistant the photographs and said, "Pass this along." And since then, we've had like 20 supernatural objects thrown in our face. Like, what is it? What the fuck is it? Are they talking about? He's seen it. Has he seen
he saw the witch? Yeah, he saw the demon? Right.
What did he see? Like, so it's like you're already confused about what it does mean. But then, okay, why are they talking to this homicide detective? What answers do they seek from him? How is this going to help them achieve the overall goal of helping Arnie off of getting the death penalty? Once again, neither Ed nor Lorraine say anything about why they're there. And this is like a great example of like what not to do. After the scene is over, at the end of the discussion with the detective, Ed says, well, we were actually hoping there might be something in your case file that might help prove Arnie's story.
Yeah, like, it's completely disconnected? What are you...
After the scene's over, we learn why they were there. All they had to do was say that sentence before they got to the detectives. But, so the entire time you're like, what are they doing? Why are they there? Okay, so they go to the next scene. Debbie visits Arnie in jail. Okay, and here's the patch, Jamie, right? This sounds like somebody along the line was like, we need a little bit of explanation. So Debbie says to Arnie, they're in Danvers now. If they can find some way to connect what happened there to what happened to you, then it's a pattern. And they might find out who did this to you. But what if it's a pattern? What does that mean? It's a pattern. And how does that help Arnie be proven that he was possessed while he killed this guy to get him off the death penalty? No one in this movie is explaining to us how these things are going to help them achieve the goal.
Right.
Like, so we're just sort of going from scene to scene, watching them discover things, and then they don't talk about it, what they discovered, or whether it's giving them progress, or like, or it's a setback. Okay, So the next scene, they agree to help the Danvers homicide detective try to find the body of the missing girl who might have been cursed just like Arnie was too. But what happens if they don't find the body? Like, there's no discussion of like, we have to find this body or else for this guy.
They're kind of just doing it.
They're kind of just doing it, right?
Just going to see. Hey, it's a nice day out there in the woods. Yeah, it's fun.
We get to spend the woods.
Bring a picnic out there. Have some fun.
So this is another scene where Ed and Lorraine are not discussing to the audience, like clarifying, like, this is going to bring us closer to helping Arnie. Instead, we're just like kind of going along with them as they do something else. That's cool. That's premise delivery, but it's not like there's no it's emotionally engaging reason for it.
It's also weird because like he's doing it in the face of him, like, you know, like he's running through the woods, risking his health,
which is something we can get into later.
Right, we'll get into that later. But what I'm saying is like the movie thinks what they're doing is so important, it's worth him risking that.
But neither of them talk about it.
But neither of them say anything about it. Right. It's odd. It's
so you can't connect with why they're still doing this.
Yeah.
Why
like
they're
even
going
I was
deeper.
Even I was like, Ed, just go home. Retire.
Literally all they need is and all they need is for Lorraine to say that. Dude, you're hard.
You can't do this work anymore.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they succeed. They find the body, which gives them the case file, which that's the reason they're doing all this, but they never talk about it except for one, like, throwaway line. They succeed, right, to get the case file. Well, we don't even see that case file that they get for another 20 minutes later in the movie after all this other shit has happened. It's like all this, there's like a 10-minute spider web to get this case file. Then they get it and they don't even look at it. It doesn't even show up on screen for another 20 minutes. And we've like already forgotten about it. Okay, so here's my favorite one, Bob, talking about confusing tactics.
Okay.
61 minutes into the movie, 20 minutes after they've discovered these are paranormal experts, right, guys?
Yeah.
40 minutes in, they discover that he's been cursed, not possessed. Lorraine has an aha moment. She says to Ed, hey, you know what? We know it's a curse. Why don't we try to break it?
It's incredible. Like, they wouldn't have said that when they found the thing.
Why did you have to go and do all this other shit if you could have just like gone and like ate a sandwich and go, you know what? Why don't we just break this curse?
Or why not give the audience other options that they might have tried? Like, like I don't know anything about this stuff. Is there can you do like a counter curse? Can you what do you need to do to break a curse? They don't say any of that until later on. Like, oh, and I would have never guessed the altar even had a point to all this. Like that became a thing. They made that a thing.
Right.
You know, like you have to explain to us how you stop it.
How do you? Yeah, and they do eventually.
Eventually, it's it's so late.
Right.
And usually the way you do something like that is our old secret weapon friend, right?
The secret weapon.
Yeah.
You plant some seed early in the movie that is like, remember that thing we talked about earlier?
Right.
This is one of those. You know,
now, granted, they did have her seeing flashes of the altar from the very beginning of the movie, but it's so blurry.
It doesn't
and
really
it's
read.
so fragmented that you're not even able to conceptualize what it is that you're looking at.
I'd argue in execution though that those flashbacks don't say to me, "Hey, it's the table.
It's the secret weapon.
It's the table." I didn't think the table. I was like, the whole time I'm like, "Who the hell is doing it? Who's the woman?"
Yeah.
That's what I care about, right?
Yeah.
Not the furniture.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the next thing, like. And this is, once again, like confusing discoveries, right? Confusing tactics. I'm just going to keep going down the list and just show why it's hard to emotionally connect with this story. So, okay. Lorraine. So Lorraine decides with Ed, like, hey, we can break this curse. And then they start discussing, like you said, Bob, a little confusing. Lorraine says, if the villain cursed this other girl that they just found the dead body of, then maybe the Satanists' psychic connection with the body is still open. So they're like, let's go touch her body, right? But why? Again, like, why are they touching the body? Like, what does she hope to get out of doing this, right? Like, what does she hope to do by touching the body? We're not told, right? So like they're going and doing all this stuff. It's like a Mission Impossible mission without ever knowing what the fucking mission
also
is, right? Like
we're
gonna break in and we're gonna get to the body and then what?
Outside of introducing a monster into the movie, what does that scene truly accomplish information wise? Right. Outside, it's almost like them giving up their position. It's them. They had like the element of surprise. Right. That scene is them going, "Hey, witch, we're here, looking for you." And then they don't really find. Her face doesn't bring anything up to them. It doesn't give them something to do with.
And they don't even tell us what it is they're trying to do with it. Which makes it even more hard to connect with. Go ahead, Jamie.
So one thing I was going to say about the procedural aspect of this thing, right, is, there's your old-fashioned monster in the house genre, and the monster in the house traps people in the house with the monster. But because they're not trapped, it's kind of what I think is going on here. It's something I've talked about before, where I've submitted scripts, or I was even once offered to do a scare pass, and there's almost like a mathematical formula that honestly probably came from Insidious and The Conjuring or something like that, where they are looking for every 10 pages to have a scare beat, right?
Right.
This movie, I think you could probably chart them out. And some of them are very forced, like the body in the morgue. You're like, what is that? What does this mean?
Cool scene, by the way. I love the scene body, on its own.
Totally creepy. Yeah. The guy was awesome. That was good.
Awesome.
The hand that reaches out on the cliff, like, what is that exactly? What are we?
Yeah.
What happened there? Why is that happening? Was that the girl?
And
who is it?
It's like a demon or something, but it's like they feel very calculated. And again, you kind of have to have those, but the trick is to try to figure out an logical way to put them in.
And I guess somebody would argue that's organic.
Was that just the Warrens having her psychic mind was doing that to her. I don't understand.
Like showing the dangers of what happens.
Of what happened
when you
there.
go to the dark side, like you can let something in to get you or something.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
it was a beautiful shot. Her hanging off the cliff, very romantic.
Yeah. It's but
it's green screen, right?
I don't know. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It looked like it would be in our Romancing the Stone meets.
Yeah.
It looks like straight out of that. But
yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I almost wish the movie was just about them. It had no other victims except for them. Like I wish that there was a witch hunting the Warrens.
Just them getting hunted by something in their room.
It's a different movie entirely, but I think that's a cooler movie at this point.
But okay, so now so let's look at the outcome of that scene, right?
Right.
We're always as storytellers, every action has an outcome, and that propels the rest of the story based on the outcome of that scene to the next scene, right? So again, all of a sudden, all that stuff happens with the body, and she says, like, Lorraine connects with the body to whoever cursed Arnie, and she makes this discovery. She's trying to complete the curse. What? I thought he was already cursed. Like, all of a sudden, we're 70 minutes into the movie, and now we're learning, no, he's not cursed. He's in the middle of a curse. Like all curses that you've seen before. There's a ceremony and we're not finished yet. Like, it's so confusing. Like, what do you mean she's trying to finish the curse?
It's not even that.
Cursed.
It's also the double mumbo jumbo, if I could use one of your guys' terms, of how it's actually happening to him. I don't understand even now.
Well,
like,
they don't.
I was like, is she controlling his body motions like a puppet?
Right.
Or is she telling a demon to do it? Or is the demon just doing it at will? I don't understand what's happening exactly.
And then after she says that, she's trying to finish the curse, she doesn't say anything else. So we're like, what?
What? Okay.
On to the next scene where they go home. And Drew brings them a book. He says it was used by the church to stop the witchcraft. And she says, does it say how to stop a curse in there? Which is confusing why they wouldn't know how to stop a curse after like 20 years of being the most world-renowned paranormal experts. But like that, I was like, I mean, I can do a simple Google search now and find some ways how to stop a curse. And I feel like, well, they didn't have Google back then.
They're mostly they actually. If I was trying to argue for them, they are demonologists.
I'm being a total.
I know you're being a dick, but I'm saying is I think their specialty is actually demons. Completely.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So they're, and that's true.
Not that the movie would tell me this. But
they have established that they're
demonologists. Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
But okay, so here's where another thing that's confusing. She says, Debbie, the fiance, says, but you stopped her. She's going to give up. And Lorraine says, she can't give up. Once she started, the curse must be completed. Her soul depends on it. What? What do you mean? The soul of the witch depends on the curse? What does this mean? I don't understand. Like, and the movie makes no effort to expand on that. They just move on to the next scene. So it's once again, like, she's just made a discovery. Right, Lorraine has made a discovery that's now giving them their next tactic, but we don't understand what that discovery is that Lorraine just made, why it matters, or how it's going to help save Arnie from the death penalty, or just being cursed in general. So, like, once again, characters are discovering major things, and then we're not allowed to understand what they just discovered, how they feel it's going to help them, how they feel it's progress toward defeating the villain. So it's just another moment that needed explanation and debate between the characters about what this means, what this discovery means. So this is my favorite one. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I think you might actually say it, so I don't want to steamroll you. So go ahead.
Okay, so the next this is the one that I'm really confused about. So Drew and Ed are looking at this map. They're trying to figure out where the Satanist villain might live, right? And they're shrinking down the possibilities of where this location is. And then, but Lorraine's on her way to talk to the priest again. And Drew, they're like, there's train tracks. She heard train tracks in her psychic vision. And then the guy says, there's train tracks by the river. And he says, oh my God, the river. He actually says, and then you're like, but what does that mean by the river? And Lorraine like pulls up and there's kind of water in the picture.
It's
but,
a
like,
dam. It's
sure.
a dam.
Yeah. But like,
yeah.
what is he afraid of? Because like, we know he's not going, like, that moment confused the shit out of me. Like, he has this another gasp, and then we don't hear, like, what is he fearing about her? And yeah, I was just
I had just assumed I missed a scene when they visited the priest early on, where there was a river or something.
Yeah,
when they first visit the priest, there's an establishing shot that shows that it's next to a dam.
Okay.
And so they do establish it visually.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I don't remember
5 seconds?
Yeah, dude. No, I'm not trying to say it was well done. I'm just saying, like, it's there.
So there, it is there.
But I also was just as confused as you when he goes, a river, and I was like, well, that was a dam. What?
He said, oh my God. He says, oh my God, the river. And it's like, and the fact that the three of us didn't even understand why we're supposed to be afraid in this big pivotal moment toward the climax.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the movie in a nutshell, right? The problem's like, go ahead.
Yeah. On the flip side, I guess that's what it was, because that's what all movies do at that point. I was like, immediately I said, I must have not been paying attention when they showed a river early on. Based on his reaction and knowing that we were right around the all is lost territory, and I was just like,
I looked at my phone during the river scene. Damn it!
But like, it's another one of those things where since we weren't really hearing him vocalize like why he's afraid, even just for like just one line, right? Just give me one line, like shit, like
it's the priest or
just something like. Clarify or so it's another one of these things where like
that's when they come to that that's the moment they come to it through the map, right?
Yes,
because the recording had the sound of a train.
Yes.
Also something that we have no connection to.
Yeah
we have no connection to when the train schedule is in this area,
right? And he's like, oh, I know the train schedule by heart because the story needs me to at this very moment.
Right. It's very odd. And then,
well, I was going to say, like, in lesser procedurals, and because this is a horror movie, I'm sure they didn't put as much thought into this aspect of it. And part of the reason why I don't love procedural horror in general is it feels like everything is just easy. There's no real obstacles to it, right?
Yeah.
So it just feels like, and I feel this way sometimes when I watch like a television procedural as well, where they just, it's okay, there's a murder happens. They go to the first person says, go to that person. Then they go to that person. Then they go to that person. They say, go to that person. And there's really no, like, I could be the detective in those stories. It's just, there's no real police work or anything. It's just like, oh yeah, I know, you should talk to this one. You should talk to that one. And I just feel like, where's the story in that? Sometimes I feel like I'm just, who cares? I'm just zigzagging. Just fast forward me to the end of your
everything happens way too easily. Yeah.
Way too easily. There's because they don't really hit a failure at any point in their investigation. They don't really make a mistake in their investigation. They do reveal some increasing of the stakes or evolving of the villain's plan.
Right.
But they never get to a point where they really hit a wall or anything or have to use.
Jamie, wouldn't one of those, like, shouldn't there be a moment where they realize, like, the movie is the priest, the bad priest, or he's not even evil, telling us what actually was happening.
Yeah.
There's no moment where the only thing that's discovered is where the danger is coming from.
Right.
At no point did the actual people in the procedural figure out it's the priest and he's been hiding his daughter that he had years ago. There's no moment of like all the pieces coming together
the puzzle.
The
And
puzzle,
I think that
yeah.
but I think that's what Ed does come to the conclusion of.
But he never.
And we don't get that vocalization.
I don't know. Does he ever say? I don't think Ed actually knows about the daughter connection completely.
No, but he knows that he's
There's
like,
something wrong there.
Got to be to do with the priest at this place who has
he knows the priest
all
in the
his
place is
collection
bad.
of artifacts. Yeah,
he knows that's
like
bad, but
yeah.
I'm just saying it's odd too that like the movie also throws in another theme or another premise at the end where it's like, here's a priest who had a child and was forced by the church to hide it completely. It's like a whole other thing.
And it's awesome. Like, it's a good on paper.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Like, and it's really cool.
In a weird sort of way, when I heard that scene, because he says something at one point like, I don't remember the exact words.
You have to be careful what we show our children through.
Yes.
And that doesn't have any other echo in the
Judy,
movie.
And Judy, we haven't seen Judy.
She's like in one scene. Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, that's a pretty interesting thing if you brought her back into the movie, which would have, I wish they would do in this, because this is a franchise where we want to know more about the Warrens.
The family, yeah.
And let's explore deeper into the Warrens.
Why wasn't the witch trying to hunt the daughter, bringing her?
Honestly,
I don't know.
And that's what the other movies did, right? So like you can see, and that's why I say like a lot of these movies we watch, you can kind of feel that there's drafts where maybe that was being explored, right? Like there's probably a draft of this where, like you said, Bob, the witch is connecting with their daughter.
Right.
At their home, since the story does take place in their home a lot.
And their daughter gets obsessed with figuring it out
because
just
of
like her parents, right?
And there was a note somewhere along the lines where this is too much story, we have to cut it out, but they left that line in the end.
Yeah. And then you could have a theme between Ed and Lorraine where they're debating whether they should continue because of the effects it has
on their daughter,
and it makes the personal, just like the other,
so that the villain and the protagonist antagonist have an echo to them, right?
And somewhere along the line, somebody cut that. Somebody said that we can't. It's too much.
Because again, you could make the story more about the question of what's the cost of pursuing these things,
right?
And he has a heart attack. The daughter's in trouble. It's is this a life? Is it worth chasing the darkness if the cost is our love for each other?
Just like the other two movies, that's their personal conflict. So it would just be an expansion of that. So we're rewriting the movie here, but I bet there's a version of this on paper somewhere, at least in a pitch form, that's something that they were considering doing. And what we saw was the leftovers that they decided not to use. So yeah, I basically said my piece about that confusing tactics and not understanding what they discovered.
Right.
And I tied in my obstacles thing.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say that the plan is what... I'll be honest with you guys. I don't either. I didn't look at my phone. And I don't know what the witch's ultimate goal was.
Yeah.
Her, right? Because we're talking about her plan.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what she was trying to do and why she chose those people. I missed something, and I intently watched this movie.
There was some mumbo jumbo about like the father, the son, and the clergyman, or something.
It was like a kid and it was like a kid and a religious pure man, and then a suicide.
Yeah, I guess it's the girl or something. But that didn't even make sense to me, because then I was like, well, there was a kid, but then there was Arnie. Which one?
The kid doesn't count because the kid didn't finish, right?
The kid didn't finish. So is Arnie the kid? It was very
right.
So here's what I've gathered. So like, Jamie, you've made a good argument for why revealing the villain's plan late is okay, because it's like a procedural. And it's less like an arc plot monster in the house horror and more like a procedural, an X-Files procedural. So they're slowly learning, like it's a murder mystery. They're slowly learning the villain's motive and plan instead of learning it up front and trying to stop it. So, but I would argue not knowing the villain's plan is the major downfall of this movie. It's why it's like not compelling, whereas like in the Conjuring 1 we learn really early what the witch why the witch is doing what why what's happening to the people at the house is happening, and what the monster is intending to do to this family very early on. She's going to kill the children, right? It's very easy, and they spend the rest of the movie trying to stop that from happening in the first one. And the second one's very similar. It takes a little longer, but we learn the villain's plan about halfway through. So this one, we don't even really get clarity until 70 minutes. Here's what I gather, and you guys can bounce off of it. Her goal is to finish cursing Arnie, but what does that mean? And what does it even look like? How can we visually track it?
Her finish cursing Arnie is he kills himself, right? He commits suicide.
I don't know. She wants to harvest his soul. That is said at the end.
The movie does say that. The movie does say he has to kill himself.
Okay.
He remember the scene where she's like, where he has the thing at the...
Yeah.
He's supposed to... The demon in him is trying to kill him, or she's... I don't know. But he has to kill himself. That's the point.
So her goal is to possess him, get him possessed long enough to kill himself.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
And then... Yeah. Okay, and then what does the villain hope to gain by doing all
That's
this?
kind of what I was saying before, is I think I watched the movie completely awake and alert, and I don't know what... Does she get, like, superpowers from this?
We don't know.
Does she get a special place in hell?
I watched it twice, and it's not there.
Right. What is she... Is she just sucking up young souls so she can live longer? I don't know what she's doing.
Okay, and the stakes we learn from a single line 88 minutes in is her soul. She loses her soul if she fails. So what's she trying to gain that's so risky that she loses her soul?
Like, is she just killing kids because it's fun? Okay.
Right.
What?
Enjoyment? Fulfillment as a Satanist?
She's just super into the occult. This is like her hobby. This is her hobby.
And you know what? They do have like a line where when we meet the priest, where he's like, there is no order or rhyme or reason to what they do. They are agents of chaos. He says that, so maybe that's what
she's
the
the
movie's
Joker.
Trying to throw.
She's the Joker.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know. Okay. And like, so urgency, right? So the other part of the plan, urgency. There's no deadline for completing her plan is ever mentioned. There's no like time frame that she has
midnight
to do
on Halloween
by.
She's got to do
like no
right, yeah.
So she could just do it whenever. So I think like for me the reason that this movie is hard to like emotionally engage in is I don't know what they're up against or why they need to stop it for most of this movie. And so I'm just sort of like, okay, they found another cool thing. This is very visually interesting, and I like the ideas, but I don't know what it's all about or like who they're trying to stop.
It almost becomes the same problem as episodic movies, where it's not really when characters don't have goals and it just kind of swap in scene for scene for scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you can't track really what the progress is in your own mind and you're not on board with them, like I'm part of the team. It just, these things are almost random.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Can I also say, like, not showing us the courtroom scene at the end where they actually make the tangible argument? I don't know what the police found evidence-wise in that basement thing that would let the Warrens explain that it was supernatural. I know. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of candles and a broken table, but, like, what else do they have to say? You know what I mean? Like,
I know. They won the Super Bowl and we didn't see the winning drive.
There's also kind of weird, unethical thing about this whole thing, right? Because we know the guy really wasn't possessed in real life, but this movie makes people think he was.
That he was innocent. Yeah. Right. So, like, he actually stabbed his friend to death. And
there was a part of me that was like, maybe he'll become the villain in the end when I saw this mystery going down. Like, maybe he had an old girlfriend who did a thing and they were Satanists or something. I thought they might twist it. Because then you could, like, shame him. I don't know. There's a weird thing.
Or he was, like, boning the witch and they were, like, boyfriend and girlfriend secretly. And He's like, no, now I should be more powerful than ever, and he slits his throat and becomes like a demon.
Gosh.
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe that's just as unethical. I don't know, but it's a little on the shady side.
yes. No, Jamie, that's such
on.
a good point, because it's like you are watching a movie that's totally. It says it's based on a true story. It touts it.
Yeah,
and then it's like, but.
Imagine if we make a movie 20 years ago that says OJ was possessed or something.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah.
It's like a little.
No, you are watching that success, the victory, and kind of feeling. I don't know. I felt kind of very similar to what you're saying. Yeah.
It's weird.
But I was so concerned. I was so hyped up about all the other craft stuff that I was like having issues with. That was kind of like, oh, and there's this.
It didn't. These movies are so fantastic because I assume like the only truth
larger
of it
than
is,
life. Yeah.
From what I could tell, the only truth of this movie really was there was an exorcism, much like the one they had in the house. Like in the beginning. I mean, not that it looked like that. But
right. Which I love that
thing.
exorcism, by the way.
And then I think months later, he did have a situation where he killed his landlord.
Okay.
Protecting a kid supposedly or something.
Oh, they took that out, huh?
Yeah, there was some kind of thing where he took offense to like the way the person talked to a kid or so. I don't know. I read something about it. And then he did plead, and the Warrens were sort of involved, and he did end up like going to prison. But I don't know. And the other weird thing was there was a waterbed apparently, or a bed scene.
Oh, there was a waterbed.
Similar to that, there was.
Okay, so that was built out of some case
So there was a kid who said that he saw something grab him out of a waterbed in real life?
Something about the bed was inspired. I don't know if it looked anything like that. I don't think they have water damage on
Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right. Yeah. But aside from that, so everything the Warrens did was fiction, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take much stock into the based on the true story.
Though
but But what you're saying is a good point.
Paranormal State had similar. No, Chip Kofi. Chip Kofi's seen similar stuff on his show.
It's all exaggerated and it's kind of unethical.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I guess the whole franchise is unethical, then, kind of, right?
In that way.
In that way, this movie specifically, though, because of the court case.
Yeah, I think the rest of it's just treading on fantasies they kind of created, So I feel less, but this one actually had a murder case involved, and you're making the murderer innocent. Saying it's a true story, and.
He was set free eventually.
Making light of a real murder is basically what we're talking
about. Let me ask you guys this. Was the movie saying that because of their work, he wasn't given the chair?
Not really, but
is that what it's saying?
I think so.
But why else wouldn't he get the chair? Why? That was almost like
I'm saying, did the Warrens actually in real life save a murderer from the chair and let him go free again? That's what I'm asking. I don't actually know.
I don't know either. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, years ago I read The Demonologist, though I don't think this case was in The Demonologist. But if I remember correctly, they were in there and they turned it into a bit of a circus that really didn't have any bearing on the case.
Okay. Okay. So they were sort of like the antagonist of a typical procedural.
Yeah.
So they were the villains.
I think more the guy was making this case, and they were trying to bring them as like, yes, there was an exorcism, yes, there is a demon at play.
So this is some major revisionist history, right?
I'm not even sure that they got in the courtroom. You know what I mean? I think he more just used that, and they're like, well, you can't plead that, and he's like, well, okay, and then they went and had some interviews.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I know that we're not really talking specifically script right now.
No, not at all.
Does it bother either of you about Ed's heart attack?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this.
No, I'm saying the way it happened. Like it happened from a demon yelling at him. That the
demon used its power.
Used its power to give him a permanent heart attack. That's odd to me. I thought that was going to be. Usually, it's a temporary thing, right?
I think it's temporary. It's meant to be temporary.
Well, how come the demon can make a body do all that stuff, and that's all temporary? That kid would be dead, right?
Right.
That kid was in a pretzel of his back.
The rules are...
Yeah.
The thing about that was, though, that part was true. No, I just kidding.
Well, Ed might have had a heart attack back then.
I'm laughing. That's a terrible thing to laugh
Yeah.
at.
A demon gave him a heart attack. And that's fact.
Wow.
Don't talk me down.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm from a screenwriting construction standpoint, from a craft discussion. Let's talk about the heart attack. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we meet him and we see this prologue, which I love the prologue. And it has a demon infused heart attack, like the Frighteners, where like it reaches in and like stops his heart or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, we go another hour before the heart problem is ever dramatized again. Yeah. It's 57 minutes. He's having a stressful scene in the woods, and he's like, all of a sudden he's sweaty. Oh my God. And he's having another heart attack. But like, we've been made to kind of forget about, he's in a wheelchair, and we sort of see the outcomes of that. But no one's ever like, Ed, be careful about your heart. And he's never put into a situation where he's like, if you do this, it's going to put stress on your heart. Like, nothing like that happens whatsoever for the rest of the movie until an hour in. And then all of a sudden he's having a heart attack. And then after he has the heart attack, the EMT gives him the pills and says, here's some pills that'll help your heart problem. He's like, oh yeah, I got these. I just left them at home. But it's like, it would have been nice for us to know that he left them at home, right? That's all you need to do is show him like leaving the pills, which they later do. Like,
we're not even told that he has pills necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Until after it happens.
Right.
And then, so like, then he leaves the pills at home when he's running to rescue Lorraine. And then there's no heart problems for the rest of the movie. Like, he doesn't have another heart attack while he's like trying to kill her with the sledgehammer. The heart problem is never brought up again.
I was hoping that the movie was trying to say something there, like the heart attack was spiritual in some form, or like that he was finally breaking free of the curse.
Right, like
that's why he could do that.
Jamie, do you think somewhere in earlier drafts she thinks our love is our weakness, it's our strength, had something to do correlated with the heart problem they gave him?
The heartbreak? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He was also like in a coma from this heart problem. It was a pretty serious heart problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I agree. I think they lost track of a lot of stuff on the quest, because I thought they lost track of Arnie and stuff. And when it was convenient, they'd come back. Oh, put him on suicide watch. Call him. And I barely got to know those characters, the girlfriend and Arnie.
To feel anything about their,
and then the cop looking in, like, hey, what's going on? It's I felt they lost track of a lot of those.
If that was the Warren's daughter, it would have felt way more hefty.
That's true. Yeah. Oh my God.
It would have felt way more hefty.
Or if Ed had killed somebody.
I'm just annoyed I'm still annoyed that the heart attack was real. I think that bothers me. That it honestly bothered me from the beginning, because I was like, it makes no sense to me that if this demon can just give people real heart attacks, why doesn't it do it all the time? I don't understand.
Why doesn't it use that power?
Why doesn't it use that power all the time? And then why doesn't all the other physical stuff hurt for real?
Reading the Demonologist, that's Ed's book. I think they had 2 books.
Yeah.
There are a lot of stuff like that in those books, though, that are just out of the blue. Like, one day I was driving home and a tornado struck, and it flipped our car over. And it's like, okay, wow, demons can do all kinds of stuff. And it's like, that scene with the phone reminded me of that. They picked up the phone and went, or whatever. And
yeah, what was that? Is that because the 2 people on the phone were not cursed? Right? Am I crazy here? But
Jamie, that's probably, like you said, that's the scare draft. You need your whammies every 10 minutes. So you throw in the whammy, and who cares? You don't need to explain it. It's supernatural.
The power of evil is there, and it's in line with his book. I'll tell you that.
That's cool, and it's shit like that happens in the other 2 movies, and people love it.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, why do you think a lot of people like this movie, despite everything we just
Do
said.
they? I haven't read anything.
Oh man, I'm seeing the Twitter horror thread. I'm seeing lots of people on Twitter horror Twitter love this movie.
I mean, it's the two of them.
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah,
it's the two of them. It's honestly not a script reason.
Well, I think it is. Jamie, do you want to give your Batman anecdote from writing Batman Begins? David.
The David Goyer.
David Goyer's anecdote. Yes.
David Goyer, the first thing he did before writing Batman Begins was write down all the things people expect in a Batman film, and he kind of listed them out, whatever those are. Yeah.
He made a giant list of all the things the audience wants
in a Batman movie.
I wish that was the movie we got.
These genre expectations. Well, I think if you really just take a step back and make a list of all the stuff that happens in this movie.
I was knocking Batman Begins.
Oh, the Batman. Man, I fucking love it. We can do that.
I hate the third act, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with the Conjuring genre, the Conjuring franchise expectations, right? Yeah. We get Ed and Lorraine actually paranormal investigating this time instead of just like stopping
instead of showing up.
Force. They're doing paranormal investigation to a level we've never seen. We get our accursed objects. We get our weird, supernatural premise delivery left and right that we haven't seen in the other movies. We get people being exorcised. We get people being like if you go down the list and start writing down like what happens,
you get witches, you get monsters, you get an exorcism. You even get some. You even get like a hospital stay,
right?
A dramatic hospital stay.
Mm-hmm. Right. You get Ed and Lorraine having these romantic moments post vanquishing villains. You get. I think they did a great job at least satisfying the expectations of what to see in this movie, and I think it's instructive that like the first thing that you should do when you decide on your genre is identify that, or subgenre, both. Identify that genre and write down a list of the must-haves, the people, places, things, scenarios that an audience is going to expect out of this experience, and then you make it fresh by using your specific premise. And I think that's why a lot of people like this, despite all the stuff we just talked about.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I think this movie, and this is kind of how we started, and even though we kind of picked on it here, it's not like the complete train wreck of a movie that is just an awful movie.
No.
It's almost like the series of minor, because even the things we're talking about, they're like just minor navigational, derailments, so to speak. They're just like minor. You should have went left and you went right, and if you just would have nudged it a little bit to the left, it probably could have worked out. It feels very fixable, or
yes, that's why it's frustrating.
And even some of the things we've talked about, like I think you can fix it in your own mind if you're on board. If for whatever reason,
exactly. Yeah,
it's like the fans fill the holes, right?
It's not so complicated that you can't figure out what's going on, because it has kind of a easy trajectory. So I think if you really are just in the mood to watch this franchise and you like these characters and you can't wait to see them again, maybe you just fix some of the things in your own mind, and you don't care about those things as much. You're just like, here they are at the back.
Also, like as you said, it's a connectivity issue. Like there's a lot of cool scenes. The waterbed scene's awesome. The opening is awesome.
Yeah.
The entire performance by the Fringe dude, he's a great. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, the fun and games is fantastic.
Yeah, the fun and games, right? That's a great,
The premise delivery, the genre expectations,
yeah. Like it's there, and that's probably what's important with Twitter fans. Not insulting that. I'm just saying that's what's important.
Yeah. So I'll give it props for that. Absolutely. And like you said, Jamie, a lot of the stuff we're mentioning is they're little issues. It's just when you compound them on top of each other, they start feeling bigger.
It's
As far as
honestly,
emotional engagement.
If I just knew what the witch wanted,
right.
I think the whole movie would be like 2 letter grades up. Like it takes
the
so much away.
villain's plan is very confusing. Yes.
Right. Or no, I really just want to know what her motive is. That's
Yeah.
What does she get out of this curse?
I think it also shows.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it also shows how hard it is to pull all this off sometimes. Because
Absolutely.
Yeah.
they went through testing and they cut a little thing out and they put a little thing in and they did this and they did that. So even tweaking the script, which I'm sure they did the same thing, they probably got noted to death and had a million notes and had to handle. These things are like, so it feels like just one, like almost like some of the stuff we're talking about could have been in some original cut.
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
And when they were negotiating, they were just like, I think the audience will get this. And maybe some of the audience will. Maybe some of their prime audience will, and maybe just we didn't get it. So we're kind of figuring out why like I said, we're digging deeper to figure out why we weren't engaged.
Exactly, from a storytelling standpoint.
From a storytelling standpoint. It's weird because this particular episode that we just did, I kind of came at it a little differently. I don't really watch these movies and check off, they didn't lock in the right time, or they didn't. I'm like, I'm not engaged, I'm not paying attention. And then I say, why not? And then I try to form language around it. And that's the way I feel like this one kind of came. It's more diagnosing what happened there.
Yeah. Same.
They wanted a movie that was about the Warrens, and they didn't commit. That's my diagnosis if I had to make one. Like they should have went harder down that road.
Point.
It should have just been a Warrens movie, and instead they have these outsiders involved. It should have been a witch attacking them for some past grievance that they did,
which is totally motivated.
Totally motivated. Like,
but then it doesn't tap into a true story that they can use their IP to sell.
Well, then it would also be less morally objectionable.
And I get the IP thing and the true story.
Totally,
but I wonder
from a marketability.
I wonder if this franchise could sustain. We don't care about that anymore. We're just doing something,
dude. Imagine.
Jamie, if it didn't say that, would people be angry? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Right?
I don't know.
Right.
I could see it with the first movie. You're trying to sell it on that because things are scarier when you think they might have really happened, and you suspend your brain a little bit.
Oh, that phrase has power, even though it holds no real weight.
It does. It does. Even
based on a true story.
Also, it's kind of a weird contract with the audience. Like,
absolutely.
Let's pretend like this really happened.
I mean, and it's even a weird contract in that like people will hate it for that phrase as much as people who will love it for that
phrase.
Like Rudy is one of my favorite movies. It's a load of horseshit. Some people, because it's a load of horseshit and it says based on a true story, hate the movie because of that. For me, I don't give a shit about that phrase whatsoever. So I love the movie. Just like I don't give a shit whether this is true or not, except what you're saying, the moral aspect of making light of a real murder. Yeah,
right. It's actually ruining the movie for me that it's based on it. Like the fact that they had to do it at all.
Yeah.
And it's not like a true story is a book series that you're adapting to movies. Books are written pieces of art. True stories are just real life, and real life, as we know, sucks. Like, just the first movie was good. Now leave that behind. Now just write your own.
Just play, man. Just play.
Write your own Warren stories. It doesn't.
And
you're right, Jamie.
There's enough stuff that they could even take pieces of their actual cases, without like this one, because I think it's this whole law case and stuff like that. I mean, I think they could just take like the mythology of a case, like I think there's one that's like a werewolf or something that everybody keeps arguing. Just take a werewolf, and that's all you take.
It's like Fire in the Sky, based on a true story, when it was just guys saying that happened. The whole movie is a load of shit. It doesn't matter.
But it's great.
They're too much of a slave to reality.
The
here.
IP.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like that. And, and it's a shame to throw away these actors. Because they're in this, and they're
so good.
This could go on for. I mean, it will keep going. This made money, so
for some reason, I think I read, and this one was made in 2019, so
not pandemic.
Not pandemic.
Not pandemic. They shot it it was done, and Wikipedia said the last day of shooting was like August 2019.
Okay.
I think I read somewhere that there are no new ones in development right now or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like in the Conjuring universe at all?
Yeah. Not that they've canceled it or anything. I just don't think, I think they kind of ran their course of the ones that were in development, and maybe nothing's really been greenlit or taken the next step.
Well, there's 3 Conjurings, 3 Annabelles, The Nun.
The Nun and
then
La Llorona.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Right. So I guess they don't want to turn those other 2 into franchises, unless The Nun 2 happens. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know either.
So I would think that there will be I believe that a Conjuring 4 is going to happen.
I'm sure. Where there's money to be made, they'll do it.
I think for a while there was a crooked man from the second one movie.
Yeah, that seems like the reason that was placed in there.
Also, just imagine when the world is totally open back up again and there's a new Conjuring movie at Halloween or something. You're making money.
Yeah, you're making money.
Yeah. They're going to do it. Yeah, they're not saying no. And they should. I actually don't want this to be the end of this.
Me neither.
Please don't make this the end of this franchise. I want it to end better.
I appreciate that they tried to do something different.
Yeah.
Make it an X-Files. Like, I liked that they tried. The execution was rough.
I think they took a step in a new direction that could reinvigorate it a little bit.
Absolutely. They could do whatever now. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Maybe have him probably feel better, though. I don't want that hard stuff. Get rid of that. He's better. Fine.
Well, they barely even used it.
I know. I'm just saying the next movie, the stint really worked, and don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. And they totally, by the way, completely threw away the fact that in both other movies, every time she did anything with evil, it took a piece of her, and in this movie that was irrelevant, so I guess that doesn't matter anymore.
That's like how the DeLorean doesn't get cold anymore when it goes through time. They just left it behind.
Whatever.
So to end this, do we want to say anything we learned from this whole debacle?
It reiterated for me the importance of the characters debating the stakes and giving us status updates about whether something that they just discovered in a scene or some outcome of a scene is bringing your characters closer to their goal or is a setback away from their goal. We never hear that in this movie. And that is why, for me, the main reason why I don't feel anything about the Warrens' personal investment in this case. So
mine's similar. It's personal stakes. This reinforced, because I always think of macro stakes. I think of the hero, the goal, the obstacle, the stakes, and usually it's like the world will end. But in this case, it was a smaller story, and I felt like even though these are professionals, like James Bond goes on cases, usually they have macro stakes. Those are macro stakes. This is a story where it felt like it needed the personal stakes. So I guess it's a question to ask yourself when you're conceiving of your story: is what is it about, personally that's underplay? And it might be the macro thing. It might be the world's going to end, but it might be something just smaller or whatever.
And for me, just please, I just learned how. I mean, I already knew this, but please give your antagonist a motive and tell me what it is. That's all.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know that, it all seems kind of for naught.
Weightless.
It just really does. It seems completely weightless. Like, I need to know why. If she just wanted to be young, all right.
Who knows?
If she just
all powerful.
If all those kids shit on her lawn last Christmas, okay, give me something. Why these kids and her and what she needs to do. Yeah.
If she just thought the franchise had run its course and was trying to,
she's just ending the franchise herself. She's from our dimension, and she goes into the franchise to end
her reward.
Yeah,
that's where this needs.
That's the multiverse. Every franchise needs a multiverse, as we know, and that's where we're going. Yeah. All right, guys, that was good. Right, you want to plug anything? You got anything to plug?
Jamie,
I know Jamie does.
Jamie's got plugs.
As always, Save the Cat Writes for TV is out on Amazon. Go check it out, purchase it, or it's also on audiobook and Kindle.
I personally, I just learned this is the joys of micro budget filmmaking. I never know what movie's out on what platform because we have distributors that do these things. Well, our feature film Call Girl of Cthulhu, which Bob did a shit ton of work on.
Yeah, I did work on it.
Is on Amazon Prime. I just learned that it's been on Amazon Prime for months, which I didn't know. So if anybody listening wants to see a really goofy, really silly horror comedy that we worked really hard on, we made for about $40,000 about 8 years ago.
Oh man.
The hardest summer of my life. It's on Amazon Prime. Check it out. You can watch it for free.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I'll just plug that there is a Thundergrunt YouTube channel.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this show does not have video, because we all want to be gross on screen. Not having to worry about it. But there's gonna be 1 or 2, maybe even 3 shows that will have video. So
that's awesome.
There is
Bob.
a reason. I'm giving a reason for YouTube to exist.
Cool.
Plus, everything we do is mirrored on there. So
that's awesome. Bob.
Yeah. I think that's everything, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring 2 professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.